started with a mirror. Just a mirror, or at least that's what I told myself. I wasn't planning on buying anything that day. The antique store was just a detour, something to fill a lonely Sunday afternoon. Rain tapped lazily on the windows, and the sky outside was the kind of gray that makes the world feel like it's half asleep. I walked in mostly to escape the cold drizzle and maybe browse for a vintage lamp. Something warm, something comforting. The place was cluttered, dimly lit, and filled with that familiar old wood smell, a mix of age and dust and stories that had long stopped being told. The kind of store where everything felt like it had a memory, but none of those memories wanted to be remembered. I wandered past rows of creaky rocking chairs and rusted picture frames until I saw it. Standing tall at the very back of the shop, partially hidden behind a broken coat rack and a stack of chipped porcelain dolls. A full-length mirror. Tall, ornate. The wood frame was dark mahogany, curling at the edges like ivy vines frozen in time. Carved into the top was a strange symbol, almost like an eye, but not quite. It gave the illusion that the mirror itself was watching, waiting. The glass wasn't perfect. A thin haze clung to its surface, like morning mist that refused to lift. But what drew me in wasn't just the craftsmanship. It was something else. I stepped closer. For a moment, I thought I saw someone behind me. Just a flicker, a shape, gone as soon as it appeared. But when I turned around, there was nothing. Just the silence of the shop and the soft ticking of a clock somewhere near the counter. I looked back at the mirror. My reflection stared back, pale and slightly distorted in the haze. I raised a hand. So did it. I tilted my head. So did it. Perfectly in sync. Still, something felt off. Then the store owner appeared. An older man, hunched and silent, as if the years had pushed him inward. He didn't speak at first, just watched me from the edge of the aisle. "Interesting piece," I said, trying to sound casual. He hesitated. "It's old." "How old?" "Older than it should be," he replied. I almost laughed, thinking it was a joke. "You know anything about where it came from?" Another pause. Then, "People return things to this shop more often than they buy. That one's never come back." There was something in the way he said it, not pride, not warning. Just resignation. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I was lonely. Maybe I liked the idea of owning something with a story. Or maybe, just maybe, part of me had already been drawn in. "I'll take it," I said. He blinked slowly, then rang it up without another word. No receipt. No care instructions. Just a quiet nod and a glance that lingered a little too long. Back home, I set it up in my bedroom, directly across from my bed. That first night, it stood there like a tall, silent witness. The room was quiet except for the low hum of my ceiling fan. I kept the lamp on, half expecting the mirror to shift or flicker or do something. Didn't. Not really. But sleep didn't come easily. I tossed and turned, my eyes drifting back to that strange, fogged glass again and again. There was something hypnotic about it, like it wanted me to look deeper. Sometime around 3 a.m., I awoke with a start. No nightmare, no sound, just that cold, bone-deep awareness that something was wrong. I sat up and looked at the mirror, and I swear, for a split second my reflection was still lying down. It caught up immediately after, as if the delay was just a trick of sleep-blurred eyes. But my heart was already racing. I got up, walked to the mirror, and stared at myself. Same face, same tired eyes, same familiar shape. But something was different. The mist was gone. I reached out and touched the glass. Cold, much colder than it should have been, like touching the surface of a frozen pond. I pulled my hand back and looked at my fingers. There was a smudge. Not from my hand, but already on the glass. Almost like a handprint, but not mine. Too long, too thin, too wrong. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Over the next few days, I tried to ignore it. I covered the mirror once or twice with an old bedsheet, but curiosity, or something like it, always made me uncover it again. I'd find myself standing in front of it longer than I meant to, staring at my reflection, watching for anything strange. And every time, it felt like it was watching me back. It didn't reflect light correctly. Lamps cast strange shadows when they passed through it. And sometimes, only sometimes, I thought I saw something moving in the corners of it. Just beyond my shoulder. Just out of view. I started leaving the hallway light on at night. Just in case. Then came the first whisper. It happened on a Tuesday. I was brushing my teeth. The door to the bedroom opened behind me. The mirror was in view just barely through the reflection in the bathroom mirror. And then I heard it. Faint. Like wind through an old keyhole. "You don't have much time left." I froze, foam still in my mouth. I turned off the faucet. Listened. Silence. I walked into the bedroom slowly, my skin crawling. The mirror was still there. Nothing had changed. I stared into it for a long time. And then, right before I turned away, my reflection whispered again. But my lips never moved. Couldn't sleep that night, after the first encounter. Those words etched in the mirror like frost, the unnatural silence that had followed. I lay in bed, eyes locked on the ceiling, every shadow in my room suddenly unfamiliar. What did it mean? June 14th. A date. A warning. A prank? I tried convincing myself that I had imagined it. That my mind, overtired and emotionally raw, had projected something onto the mirror. But deep down, I knew. The glass had felt alive. Sentient. Cold, but not in temperature, cold in a way that made my bones ache. The next morning, sunlight offered no relief. It spilled lazily through the blinds, softening the edges of my room, but couldn't erase the dread that had nested in my chest. I approached the mirror again, hesitant, cautious. It was back to normal. No writing, just my reflection, just me. Except I didn't look quite right. Something subtle had shifted. My expression was duller, my eyes sunken as if I hadn't slept in days. I leaned closer, squinting at the glass, wondering if I had always looked this faded. That's when it whispered. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even clear. It was the sound of someone trying to speak through water, a garbled voice carried from the other side of something thick and unforgiving. My skin crawled. I staggered back. But the whisper followed. Not with volume, with presence. Wherever I went that day, I felt like someone was following me. Not footsteps, just a pressure at my back. A sense that eyes were watching me from places eyes should never be. In reflections, in windows, in puddles. My own image began to feel foreign. I stopped glancing at reflective surfaces altogether. I even covered the mirror with an old sheet, but it didn't help. The whispers didn't stop. They grew bolder. That night I dreamt of a hallway, endless, wooden floors creaking beneath my feet. At the far end, a mirror, a tall, antique one, cracked down the middle like a lightning scar. In the dream, I approached it. I couldn't stop myself. My hands trembled, but I kept walking. Something behind the glass waited. I could feel it breathing. And just as I reached out to touch the surface, I woke up, drenched in sweat. 3:14 a.m. I sat there in silence, the darkness too heavy, too full. I told myself I needed help. Maybe a sleep study. Maybe I was experiencing some kind of breakdown. But as I reached for my phone, the air shifted. The sheet I had used to cover the mirror began to move. Just a ripple, a soft wave like something had brushed against it from the inside. My stomach twisted. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body locked in place. A paralyzing cold spread from my spine outward, and then I heard it again. The voice, clearer this time. "You saw it. You read it." I backed away, pressing my back to the opposite wall. "Who are you?" Silence. "Why me?" The mirror didn't answer, but something began pressing outward from behind the glass. A pale shape too abstract to define. Not quite human, not quite shadow. Its form pulsed, reaching toward the surface like it was trying to break through. I turned and fled the room. That night, I slept in the hallway. Over the next few days, I tried to go back to normal. I avoided the mirror, convinced myself it had all been a vivid nightmare. I filled my days with distractions. Work, friends, anything to keep me from thinking about it. Then came June 1st, 13 days left. And that's when I started bleeding. It began with a nosebleed. Harmless, I thought. Maybe the stress, the lack of sleep. But it happened again. And again. Once while brushing my teeth. Red swirling into the sink. Another time, I coughed, and the taste of iron coated my tongue. A doctor's visit told me nothing. All clear, they said. Maybe stress-related. Stress. Sure. At night, the dreams worsened. The hallway became familiar. The cracked mirror always waited at the end. But now there were others in the hallway. Figures. Faces I recognized but didn't know. Their mouths were sewn shut, but their eyes screamed. And through it all, the same phrase repeated. You saw it. You know it. You cannot run. I began to deteriorate. My body weakened. My skin grew pale, almost translucent. I looked like a ghost in the mirror even when the mirror was still. But it wasn't always still. Sometimes, in passing, I'd catch a flicker. A grin that wasn't mine. A pair of eyes too dark, too wide. It mocked me. And the worst part? I couldn't stop looking. It was as if the mirror had claimed a part of me. Some sliver of curiosity or fear or fate. And now it owned me. One night I tried to smash it. I dragged it outside to the yard, lifted a hammer in trembling hands, and brought it down. The glass shattered, but it didn't break right. No shards. No sound. Just ripples, like I'd struck the surface of a pond. The hammer bounced back. I stared, frozen, as the mirror absorbed the blow. Then, it blinked. It had an eye, and I screamed. After the mirror blinked at me, something in me cracked. I stood there, hammer in hand, staring down at the surface that had just defied logic, physics, and sanity itself. It wasn't glass anymore. Felt like skin, cool, alive, watching. I backed away slowly, trying to tell myself it didn't happen. That the eye I saw was some strange trick of the light. A hallucination. But deep down I already knew. The mirror wasn't just haunted, it was inhabited. And it wasn't just showing me my reflection anymore. It was watching me, learning me. After that night I stopped sleeping. Not because I didn't want to, because I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I was dragged into the same hallway in my dreams. The one with the cracked mirror at the end. Only now I wasn't just walking toward it. I was being pulled, yanked by invisible hands. My feet scraped the wooden floor. I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come. And just before I touched the mirror, I'd wake up, gasping, drenched in sweat, heart pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. My apartment started changing too. Little things at first. Lights flickering. Electronics glitching. But then came the smells. Burnt hair, damp earth, the coppery tang of blood. I checked every inch of my place. Nothing. Until I saw the writing again. Not on the mirror this time. On my bathroom wall. Faint, like it had been written in fog and somehow dried there. 12 days. It was June 2nd. I scrubbed at it with a towel. With bleach. With desperation. But it wouldn't go away. It was like the wall itself had absorbed the message. I couldn't stay in the apartment anymore. Not with that thing in the mirror. Not with the whispering growing louder. I packed a bag and checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. No mirrors. Just a small room with peeling wallpaper and the distant sound of trucks passing on the highway. But the mirror found me anyway. That night, I was brushing my teeth in the motel bathroom. The mirror there was small, cracked in the corner, nothing unusual. Until I saw it again, that eye, blinking, just once. I dropped my toothbrush and stumbled out into the parking lot. I stood there in the cold air, shaking, not sure what to do. How do you run from something that exists wherever your reflection does? That's when I realized it wasn't the mirror. It was me. The curse, if that's what this was, it had latched onto me. It wasn't tied to the object anymore. It followed me through reflections. Windows, car doors, even the dark surface of my coffee. Anything that could bounce light became a doorway. And something was on the other side trying to come through. The next day I went to the library. Not because I thought it would help, but because I was desperate for answers. I searched everything: urban legends, ghost lore, cursed objects. And then, deep in a dusty stack of old local newspapers, I found something. A headline from 1964. Man found dead after claiming mirror spoke to him. I froze. I read the article 3 times. A man named Elijah Reddick had claimed that a mirror in his family home began speaking to him, warning him of a specific date, June 14th. The article was short. His death had been ruled a suicide. He jumped from the roof of his apartment building. No sign of foul play, but the part that chilled me wasn't his death. It was the photograph that accompanied the article. In the background, barely visible but undeniably there, was the same mirror. Tall, framed in black, a jagged crack running down the center. The exact same one I now had. I traced the frame with my finger, my stomach twisting. This thing had done this before. And the date, June 14th, was the same. Why me? Why now? I didn't know. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something had chosen me, and the clock was ticking. I tried contacting the Reddick family, but the trail had gone cold. No living relatives I could find. The house was gone. Condemned years ago. The only thing left was the mirror. And it was still with me. That night, I returned to the motel and covered every reflective surface. I even removed the TV screen. But around midnight I heard something. A knock. Not at the door. From the bathroom. 3 soft, deliberate knocks on the mirror. I froze. The room was dead silent. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. The air felt like glass. Fragile, waiting to shatter. Then came the whisper. Clear and cold. 11 more days. I snapped. I threw open the bathroom door and ripped the curtain from the small mirror. Nothing there. Just me. Pale, wide-eyed. But then, my reflection smiled. I swear on everything I did not smile. But the face in the glass did. Slowly. Deliberately. And then it mouthed something. I watched, frozen in horror as my own reflection said, "You'll be here soon." I stumbled back, heart in my throat, as the reflection faded into darkness. No more image. Just an empty black mirror, like it had swallowed my soul. They say madness creeps in quietly. It doesn't come crashing through the door, screaming or clawing at the walls. No, it tiptoes in, soft as a whisper, until you start doubting your own breath. I had reached that point, the moment where reality and nightmare blur, where silence is louder than sound. After what I saw in that motel bathroom mirror, I left the place in the middle of the night, barefoot, half-dressed, clutching only my phone and my car keys. The clerk must have thought I was a junkie or a fugitive. I didn't care. I just drove. For hours. No direction. Just away. But away from what? You can't run from your own reflection. By sunrise, I found myself at the edge of a town I didn't know. Somewhere rural. Sparse houses. Dense woods. Fog clinging low to the fields like a secret too heavy to lift. I parked behind a derelict gas station and just sat there, staring at my own hands, trying to find something real. That's when I noticed it. A crack. Not in the windshield. Not on the mirror. On my palm. A hairline fissure right across the skin. At first I thought it was just dry. Maybe I'd scraped myself without knowing. But as I stared, it grew. Slowly. Subtly. Like broken porcelain. My hands began to tremble. I rubbed my eyes, convinced I was hallucinating. But when I looked again, there were more. Tiny cracks. All along my forearms. My neck. My chest. I pulled down the sun visor and looked into the mirror. And what I saw wasn't just me. It was me but shattered. As if my skin was made of glass and something was trying to break out from beneath. My eyes were bleeding tears I couldn't feel. My mouth was stitched shut by shadows. And behind me, in the reflection, stood a figure. Tall. Thin. Drenched in black. Like it had been carved out of darkness itself. No face. No features. Just presence. It reached toward me. I turned around, nothing there. But in the mirror, its hand was on my shoulder. I screamed and threw the visor up, heart racing. When I looked again, everything was back to normal. Almost. Because that crack on my palm? Still there. Real now. And so was the burning pain in my chest. I knew I was being marked. Not haunted, claimed. Somewhere deep down, I understood. This wasn't just a ghost. It wasn't even a spirit. It was something older, hungrier. I had to know what it wanted. So I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I went back to the antique store. It was closed, windows covered, door chained. A for sale sign hung crookedly in the front window, faded by sun and time. I knocked anyway. No answer. I pounded. I shouted. Nothing. Until, just as I was about to give up, a voice, weak and trembling, whispered from behind the door. Go away. You brought it with you. I froze. Please, I said. I need to know what this is. What the mirror is. The lock turned. The door creaked open an inch. An old woman's face appeared, half hidden in shadow, half lit by the dust-dimmed sun. You saw it, didn't you? She said. I see it everywhere, I replied. She nodded once, slow and heavy, like a penitent priest accepting confession. I tried to destroy it, she said. Years ago, after it took my sister. Burned it, buried it, but it always comes back. It doesn't stay in the glass. Crawls through it. What is it? She looked at me with eyes so tired they barely held fear anymore. It's not a ghost. It's a mirror of something that was never meant to be seen. Not dead, not alive, just waiting. It shows you what you fear most. Then it becomes it. She paused, then added, and it never stops. I asked her if I was cursed. She laughed, a dry, bitter sound like dead leaves. Cursed? No, curses can be lifted. This is a tether, a thread. Once you see it, it sees you. She slammed the door. I didn't knock again. I returned to my apartment, what was left of it. Everything felt wrong. The air was too still. Time moved too slow. My phone didn't work. My clocks were all blinking 12 o'clock, over and over, like a warning too late to heed. The mirror was back. It hadn't been there before. I didn't bring it, but it was there now, standing in the center of my living room. Waiting. I walked toward it, every step heavier than the last. And this time, my reflection wasn't alone. There were others, figures, hundreds of them, standing just behind my mirrored self, all looking at me, all silent, all fractured. Some were children, some were old, some had no eyes, no mouths, no faces at all. I realized then they were the others, the ones it had taken, souls trapped behind the glass, reliving their final moments over and over. And I was next. Suddenly, my reflection leaned forward. It spoke, with my voice, but hollow, empty, like it was echoing from a void. 3 more days. Then it smiled. And this time I smiled too. Not because I wanted to, because I couldn't stop. 3 more days. That's what my reflection had told me. Coldly, casually, as if death had become a scheduled event. Like I was just another appointment. For those next 72 hours, the world shifted around me. Time warped, reality frayed. The mirror no longer stayed in one place. It moved with me. I'd catch glimpses of it in reflections where there shouldn't have been any. On blank TV screens, puddles, glass windows, even in someone's sunglasses on the street. Every surface began to show it. The tall, faceless figure behind me, closer each time. I stopped sleeping, couldn't eat. My voice trembled when I spoke, and even strangers could tell something wasn't right. One woman in a coffee shop backed away from me mid-conversation, whispering, "Your shadow." It moved the wrong way. I was unraveling, and yet I couldn't stop searching. I needed answers, no closure. I dug through archives, obscure forums, anything that mentioned cursed mirrors, mirror spirits, folklore on reflections that kill. What I found sent chills into my marrow. It wasn't just a story. Versions of this mirror being had surfaced across centuries. A Roman text describing a polished obsidian gate that whispered dates to soldiers. A Japanese folktale about a shinigami in the glass that follows you once you see it. Even native legends in the Carolinas telling of a dark watcher in the river's surface. Always the same core detail: once it sees you, it knows your end. And it never lies. That's what I couldn't escape. Because deep down, I didn't believe I could outsmart it. I didn't believe I could fight it. The only thing left was to confront it, and maybe, in that confrontation, find something resembling peace. So I made a choice. On the third day, the final day, I returned to the motel. Room 9. I don't know why, I just knew it had to end where it began. The room was exactly as I'd left it. Dustier, maybe dimmer. But the mirror was still there, leaning slightly off-center, like it had been waiting. I stepped in, closed the door, and locked it. I turned off the lights, and I stared. At first, there was only me, my tired, broken, thinning self, pale skin, sunken eyes. Every second felt like gravity was tightening its grip on my spine. Then, slowly, the reflection changed. Behind me, the shadows swirled, and there it was again. The figure, not distant anymore, close, inches away. Its hand, if that's what it was, reached toward my shoulder, like it had done before. But this time I didn't flinch. I whispered, "Why me?" The figure tilted its head. No mouth, no eyes, but I felt it respond. "Because you looked." And in that moment I understood the curse. It wasn't random. It wasn't targeted. The mirror exists like a trap, a test, a doorway. Not evil, just ancient. Reflecting not the future, but the truth we never want to see. Our death isn't what kills us. It's how we live in fear of it. The more I fed it, my terror, my obsession, the stronger it grew. The more clearly it appeared. The more power it had over me. I reached out and touched the glass. Cold, slick, endless. And my reflection grinned. Not out of malice, but mercy. "You don't have to run anymore." Then silence. I blinked, and suddenly, I was back in my apartment. No explanation. No transition. Just home. No mirror. I checked every room, every wall, every surface. It was gone. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, waiting for something to jump out. Some twist, some final scare. But none came. Instead, my phone buzzed. It was a calendar reminder. Today is the day. I took a breath. Deep, calm. I didn't feel dread. I didn't feel anything. Just acceptance. Maybe that's what the mirror really needed from me. Not fear, not resistance, but surrender. And then, the doorbell rang. I knew who it was. Not someone. Something. I didn't hesitate. I opened the door. There was no figure in black. No horror. No shadow. Just my reflection. Standing there. Whole. Peace. Smiled. And so did I. Some people believe that when you escape death, you're granted a second life. But no one talks about what that second life feels like, how strange it is to exist when, by all logic, you shouldn't anymore. It's been 6 months since the mirror gave me my death date. And somehow I'm still here. Alive. Breathing. But changed. The mirror is gone. I haven't seen it, not in its original form, not in a reflection, not even in dreams. But I know it's not over. Not really. Because the ghost it left behind me is still here. You don't walk away from something like that and return to normal. Life afterward feels like walking through fog. Like every light is just a little dimmer. Every laugh a bit hollow. Every mirror suspicious. People say, "You look different." And I never know what to say. I sleep, but not deeply. I eat, but food tastes dull. Music doesn't stir me. Faces blur. Even time feels fractured. And worst of all, the silence. You'd think silence would be a comfort after so many nights of whispers and shifting shadows. But no. Now the silence feels like waiting. For what? I'm not sure. A few weeks after that final night, I tried to write it all down. Everything. From the first crack in the mirror to the final reflection at my front door. But when I read it back to myself, it sounded like fiction. Like a desperate man's hallucination. So I stopped. I deleted the files. I kept telling myself, "You survived. That's all that matters." But some nights I wonder if I really did. Because something followed me. Not the figure, not directly. Not in the same form. But I feel it. In my chest. In my bones. In the space between thoughts. I'll be brushing my teeth, and the bathroom mirror will fog just slightly, and I swear I see something written there. A word. A shape. Gone before I can read it. Or I'll walk past a dark window at night and catch the sense. Not the sight of something turning to look at me, like it's still watching, still waiting. And then came the letters. Not handwritten, not even posted. Emails, all from blank senders. No reply to address. No subject line. Each one containing a single line of text. You have borrowed time. They arrive once a week. Same day, same hour. Always that one sentence. I tried deleting them. They reappear. I changed email accounts. It followed. I even ditched electronics, lived off-grid for a while, no internet, no phones. The emails? They started showing up in physical form. Folded notes tucked into the pages of library books. On receipts I didn't ask for. Once, I opened my mailbox and found a mirror shard. No note, just the reflection of my own eye, staring back. The message is clear. This isn't over. And the more I try to understand why, the more I come back to a single conclusion. Maybe the mirror never meant to kill me. Maybe it meant to keep me, to turn me into something else. A vessel, a warning, a storyteller. Because when I share this story, when people hear it, some of them start seeing it too. One listener wrote to me, saying he now sees a figure in his car mirror when he's alone on highways. Another told me their dreams have started ending with dates. Always whispered, always close. One woman said her daughter pointed to a dusty window and asked, "Who's that man staring at us?" There was no one there, but I didn't need to ask her to describe him. I already knew. So now I wonder, was the mirror ever cursed? Or was it simply a transmitter, like a radio tuned to the frequency of fear? Once you hear its song, you can't unhear it. Once you really look, you can't unsee it. And if you're listening to this now, if you're hearing these words, picturing the glass, feeling your skin crawl just a little, then maybe, just maybe, it sees you too. Epilogue, the final glance. I keep the lights on at night now, not because it helps, but because darkness feels honest. I've covered every mirror in my home. All of them. Even the ones I forgot existed, compact mirrors, watch faces, even my phone screen when it catches the light just right. But sometimes, late at night, I catch my reflection on a turned-off monitor or the gloss of a picture frame. And the version of me that stares back is smiling, not with kindness, but with recognition, like it's waiting for me to stop pretending I've escaped. So here's my advice, no, my warning. If you ever find an old mirror sitting alone in a forgotten room, don't ask it questions. Don't speak to it. And most of all, don't look too long. Because once it sees you, you don't just carry fear. You carry the reflection. And reflections? They always find their way back. It's strange how something can be gone and still remain. Months have passed. Seasons have changed. Leaves turned gold, then fell. Snow came and melted. Life resumed around me like it always does. People went back to their routines, their birthdays, their weekend plans. And me? I'm still here. Still waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, unsure if I was dreaming or remembering. You'd think after what I went through, I'd do anything to forget. And I tried. I really did. I changed cities, disconnected from everything. I told myself I'd rebuild, find peace, be normal again. But peace doesn't come when you've seen beyond the veil. Because it doesn't stop. The feeling doesn't stop. It's like something inside me is unfinished. I walk past glass windows now and refuse to glance sideways. I throw towels over mirrors in hotels. I turn my phone screen away from me in the dark. But somehow I always catch a glimpse. And when I do, it's no longer just me. It's a version of me that knows. It doesn't blink. It doesn't breathe. It's patient, like it's waiting for something. And I think I finally understand what that is. I wasn't supposed to survive. People like me were meant to vanish, become urban legends, cautionary tale. But I didn't vanish. I walked away. That means something. That costs something. Because when you look into a cursed mirror and walk away alive, the curse doesn't die. It just changes shape. It becomes part of you, and you become part of it. That's the terrifying truth no one tells you about surviving a haunting. Survival doesn't mean escape. It means inheritance. So I've started writing again. Not as therapy. Not to heal. to warn, because the mirror, it's not done. And I can feel it watching through me. The first letter came last week. Not an email this time. An actual letter. Thick, yellowed paper. No return address. Inside was a photo, grainy, black and white, like something out of an old case file. It showed a girl, standing in an attic, her eyes wide with terror. Behind her, a mirror, and in the mirror, not her reflection. Mine, staring, smiling. Under the photo, 3 words. She looked too. I dropped it, burned it, didn't matter. The next day, another photo came. A boy, in a school hallway, looking over his shoulder. Same thing. Me, in the reflection. Closer this time. Then the messages started again. This time, they weren't warnings. They were invitations. Tell them. More must know. More must look. At first, I was horrified. Angry. I didn't want to be part of this. I didn't choose this. But over time, the fear gave way to something else. Curiosity, responsibility, and eventually acceptance. Because maybe that's why I lived. Maybe that's what the mirror was always trying to do. Not kill me, recruit me. So I did what it asked. I began sharing the story, carefully, subtly, online, in podcasts, on obscure YouTube channels late at night, disguised as fiction, but not fiction. And people listened, they commented, they debated, and just a few reached out directly. They said things like, I saw him too. I looked too long. It's following me now. I knew then it had spread. It was spreading. And I was the carrier. Just like someone before me had been. Just like someone after me will be. Last night I went to an old antique store. Not because I needed anything. I was drawn there. The air inside was thick with dust and age. The shelves were cluttered. The lights were dim. And in the far back, tucked behind a wardrobe and a stack of faded books, was a mirror, cracked in the corner. Tall, heavy, silent, and familiar. I stepped closer, and there I was. But not me. The version of me in the glass was still, serene, but its eyes were glowing faintly, like embers waiting to ignite. It mouthed something, a single word. Continue. I didn't blink. I didn't run. I nodded. So this is my story. Not just a haunting. Not just a survival. A transformation. A passage. If you've listened this far, you know that the curse is real. And now you carry it too. Not in full. Not yet. But the mirror knows you now. It knows your voice. Your eyes. Your breath. It will wait. It always waits. And one day when you're alone, in a hallway at midnight, or in a hotel bathroom with the lights off, or staring into your own eyes too long in the morning, you'll see it. A flicker, a shadow, a smile. And then you'll remember this story. And you'll ask yourself, was this just fiction? Or was this a warning? Be careful what you look into, because some mirrors don't reflect. They reach. And once they find you, they never let go.